What does South Africa junk status mean? South Africa has been downgraded to junk status by a ratings agency. So what is a ratings agency and what does a junk status mean? There are economic and political implications and interpretations to this. I will just focus on what it means economically from this point onwards. The actual rating has been set to BB+. This can be translated to junk status. It is not the worst status, as South Africa can still be further downgraded to CCC, CC, C, then D. All these are junk status, with the C's being highest risk and D being default, which means they can't pay anymore. This would mean that South Africa has no capacity to pay back any monies owed. As it is now, South Africa has been removed from the investment grades. Before the downgrade, they were considered medium risk. So what does the downgrade mean for ordinary people? There will be no immediate impact to ordinary South Africans. In the coming months, however, ordinary South Africans will see less money invested for services such as education and healthcare and social services. The government may decide to tax the citizens more to cover up for the deficit in external investment. Electricity prices may go up. When electricity prices go up, they push up the operating costs and production costs of any products and services which use electricity. That means groceries will go up, clothes and transport as well as other things will go up. South Africa will experience negative investor confidence. The reputation of the South African business environment will take a knock. It will no longer be considered a safe and predictable environment. Investors will be worried about their return on investment. Therefore, there will be less investments from international investors. That means less money for imports. Moody's may also downgrade South Africa credit rating in the next few weeks. Fitch may also do the same. These are the other credit agencies which operate in South Africa to give investors an outlook of how their investments may perform. The political climate is considered unstable. Jacob Zuma has changed his finance ministers a few times in the last couple of years. His latest cabinet reshuffle seems to have triggered the Standard & Poor's downgrade. He is perceived to have replaced a more able finance minister with one who lacks economic experience. The South African economy has already slowed down, just like other BRICS countries. It has experienced a 0.3% growth in 2016 compared to a previous 1.3% in 2015. Analysts say the downgrade is akin to jumping from the frying pan into the fire. South Africa may be treated just like any other African country such as Zimbabwe and Uganda. Mugabe and Museveni are said to disregard institutional democracy. They have become the institutions and nothing seems to work unless they are consulted. Zuma has always tried or seemed to be working to subvert the institutions of parliamentary democracy. He seems to get his way despite allegations of corruption. He may have neglected the economy to focus on the survival politics, on the politics of survival. There are rumors some of his closest allies in the African National Congress may turn against him. South Africa will now access more expensive borrowing. South Africa may feel victimized by the downgrade, but it is probably a wake-up call to change ways. There are arguments against this. Liberation War political parties are in perpetual war with the former colonizers. They take it personally when they feel they are losing on the economic front. They feel the West is out to personally get them out of power and replace them with someone who asks how high when asked to jump. Parliamentary democracies and Western systems of governance have not been handled well by most African governments. They do not seem to work well. If the checks and balances are subverted and ignored, you cannot end corruption if no one gets arrested and pays for their criminal behavior. In Zimbabwe, it takes a group of ZANU-PF supporters to march against you in order for you to be fired as a government official, but it's mostly over political power in fighting. South Africa is now perceived to be at greater risk of defaulting on their debt obligations. For individuals, home and car loans will be more expensive to pay back. The rand might decrease in value. There will be a rise in the price of imported goods. International investors will shun South Africa investment bonds, as the downgrade effectively demotes it from an investment grade to non-investment grade or to a speculative venture. The 15% in foreign currency debt is now in junk status. That money will now be more difficult to pay back. The South African government will pay more interest on the same loans. There will be a rise in petrol and food prices, as petrol prices in the United States dollars. The Americans were very smart to fix the price of a barrel of oil to the US dollar. This gives the fiat US dollar a global demand, as every country needs to buy fuel. What can the South African government do? They can either cut spending or increase taxes on their workers to fund public goods and services. If the public goods and services start to receive less funding, then we will see the poor getting poorer, as government can no longer afford to look after them. You can expect increased social unrest as time goes on. They only have to look to their northern neighbor Zimbabwe to predict what might happen. My advice is for South Africans to realize that they need to put politics aside and work together as a people to map a way forward. It is not all doom and gloom if they come up with a plan to create capital right within South Africa. I'm one of those people who are opposed to loans from the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. I think African countries should have an exit strategy from the cycle of financial dependence. We should create our own capital. We should ask questions like who owns credit rating agencies and for what purpose. At the same time, if we subscribe to Western standards, we should not cry foul just because the system is now holding us accountable. To ordinary South Africans and Africans in general, I say please learn about and understand capital. Learn how to create our own capital. Teach yourself to be financially literate, because these things are not taught in school. I would also recommend the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. You can also watch these videos on YouTube. And to finish this off, there is a statement that I want to read, a quotation by the BBC, or found on the BBC website, and it says that getting out of junk status is difficult. According to Bloomberg, over the past 30 years, only 6 of the 20 countries that have fallen into junk status have managed to claw their way out of it. Okay, so South Africa, you've got a situation where you need to come together as a country and you need to map a way forward, because ultimately you want to get out of the junk status. But to get out of the junk status, you will need to work together, okay? Because the minimum that it takes a country to get out of junk status is 7 years, and over the past 30 years, only 6 of the 20 countries that have gone into junk status have been able to come out of it. So 6 into 30 is 5. So only a fifth, or only 20% of the countries. Okay, so you need to really sit down together and map a way forward and make plans, long-term plans, because we're mostly crippled by short-termism. Okay, it cripples us a lot. So thank you for watching.